So up until this point, we have been learning how to run scripts to create databases, put tables into those databases, and then add information into those tables. And now what we're going to learn is how to extract information from tables using a select statement. Okay, so we have a database called grades, and in grades we have 4 different tables. So in the first table, I have some information about 4 students: Jim Bob, Jane Bob, Robert Bob, and Fred Bob. So the Bob family. Jane and Jim, it turns out, are husband and wife, and Robert and Fred are their offspring. And in addition to having the student table, we also have in exam 3, we have the 3 exams. We have exam 1. And the primary key here for the exam 1 is actually a foreign key. So this is a foreign key over to students. So it's the same order: 1, 2, 3, 4, Jim Bob, Jane Bob, Robert Bob, and Fred Bob. And it looks like Jim Bob got a 27, Jane a 95, and then where are the 2 boys again? Robert and Fred got 80s and 85. So they take after their mother more than their father. Father never was a good test taker, as he would say. Exam 2, 24, 98, 80, and 90. And then in exam 3, we see that on this one, Mom didn't get the highest score. So that might prove to be interesting later on. All right, so we have these 3 exams and students. And for each of the exams, the student ID, or ID student, is a foreign key into the score table. And we have for each exam 2 columns: the student, which is a foreign key again, and score 1. Actually, I should have called this student 1, student 2. Anyways, score followed by number, and the number corresponds to the exam. So I should have had student 2. I don't know why I didn't think of this. I guess all foreign keys are the same thing, so maybe it doesn't matter too much. But anyway, score 2 and score 3. All right, so what we're going to do then is run some queries on this table. And I have 2 queries. One is called Aggregates, and the other is called Select. All right, so Aggregates. Aggregates is a way of putting together a bunch of information into one thing. And there are 4 different aggregates that we can use. We can use average, max, min, and count. So I'm going to select the average. Now, these aggregates are always used in combination with a select command. We're learning about them now, and then we're going to use them for more effects later on as we further explore queries. All right, so I'm going to select the average of score 1 from grades.exam1. So I'm always using this dot notation for my databases and not using the use grades or use database grades. And I want to find the max from score 2, so I'm going to select max score 2. So the way this works is you have a select, then you have the aggregate command, which can be average, max, min, or count. Then you take a column, and then you tell it where you're getting this from. So this is from, and then this references the table. Okay, so select max, select min, and select count. So we can count how many students we have, and then I can execute this query, and we get 4 results. They seem to be labeled funny: 6, 7, 8, 9. Well, that's because I already ran this. I tested it out before I started making the video. So result 6 here is going to be the average. So the average on the first exam should be a 71 3/4. So the average of those grades seems about right. Jim kind of dragged things down a little bit, as Jim is wont to do. The max was a 98 on exam 2. Yeah, so there's Jane Bob getting her 98. Then the min on exam 3, well, we know who that was, don't we? Yep, on exam 3, that was Jim Bob scoring his 36. and then we count then the grades. We count the students, and we should have 4, and we get 4. Okay, so in combination with select, you can have these aggregates, and then again, we can use these later on in combination with other select commands, and we could, with the right combination, not only say who, let's see, we can not only print out the maximum score, but in a little bit we'll be able to say who got the maximum score. Okay, but we'll come back to that. We're not quite there yet. All right, now going on to the basics of the select command. Kind of funny to do this after we've already been running select commands, huh? Select commands, first of all, again, these are used to pull information out of a database and out of a table. And you've seen some of this before, but we'll run it quickly through it again. So if I want to get all of the information from grades.students, so this is gonna print all the students in this table students, then you select star from. So select star means all, from, and then again you have to specify the table here. If you want, in addition to specifying the table, which you have to do, you optionally can specify the column. So instead of getting the middle name, I may want just the first name and the last name. So you can do that. You can specify columns. And then if you want to pick out certain people from students, then you have an optional where clause. So I'm going to get the first name and the last name from the students table. And what I want is the people with middle name Leslie. So let's see, who has middle name of Leslie? Oh, that's not shown here. Ooh, let's see, what happens if we run this? Do we get, here we go. Sorry, I updated the table and I forgot to run this again. So this should have middle name information, and we have 2 with the last name of Leslie, Jane Bob and Fred Bob. Okay, so we'll go back here, and so this should give us Jane Bob and Fred Bob. And then we're going to select the students from the first exam where the score is greater than 65. So basically everybody but Jim Bob. And okay, we're going to go ahead and run this query here in a second. But I just want to cover again the basics of select. So it's select. You can specify columns if you want from, and you're going to have to specify a table here. And then optionally, there's a where clause where we can check things like equals, greater than, less than, not equal, that kind of information. And right now, for these examples, using Leslie and 65, I have hard-coded in what I'm looking for. So I'm hard-coded in the word Leslie, and what that means is this is not going to change. No matter how many times I run this program, I can update the database, do whatever I want, as long as I leave the word Leslie here. I'm always going to get people with middle name Leslie. It turns out that there are ways to make this right-hand side a variable also, but this is later videos, so we're not quite there yet. Let's go ahead and run this, and we should get 4 different results. And when we do, so select star from grades.students gives us all the students. Notice that back here, when I wanted to update this, what I did was, this is actually, I had right-clicked. Let's see, where are you? On students. And did the select rows limit 1000, but really what that does is it just executes a query, select star from grades.students. So I think I've mentioned this. I'm going to say it though on video. When you are running MySQL Workbench, what this really is a front end or an interface to the back end MySQL, and it just runs queries and runs MySQL commands, and it doesn't hide it. It just says, look, I'm running this query, and then here's the output. All right. Anyways, I wanted to select. Okay, so from this select, we got all the grades, or all the students. And then we got just the first name and the last name from there. So no more IDs. And then we wanted the people with middle name Leslie, so that was, again, Jane and Fred, we hope. So that should be the third one here. Jane and Fred. And then everybody that passed the exam. And that's Jane, Fred, and Robert. Okay, so the basics of selects and drawing information out of databases, and then from here we're going to just go into some more advanced queries for a little bit so we can extract all that cool information that you've been storing in your database.